it on while I'm like working and then just like re-experiencing the whole thing. So like really like I was pretty much useless like until like Thursday afternoon, just wrapped up in the whole like thing of it, watching the parade. I think yeah, because Thursday was the parade, and that was kind of like the culmination of it. And then it was like, all right, time to get back to my life. And then yeah, yesterday just a lot of thinking about politics. I actually found something. I just started looking at like the splits of the presidential election in really small rural states and how many people it would take like moving out of California. I ended up on a really long Twitter conversation with somebody. It was like fairly interesting, but it was I won't get into how the whole thing, but it got me to thinking because I was like telling this person like who's complaining about climate change, like the government needs to do something, but they're in California and all these fires are happening, and I'm like, well, people can do stuff too. I wasn't just being idealistic. It came up for like a reason, and I'm like, well, California has 10 million more people than any other state, like 10 million more than Texas, and Texas has a load more than every other state. And all these people are cramming in there. They're running out of water, but they don't want to blame the consumption. They like want to be like they want to blame like production. They don't want to blame their own use of their resources, you know? So this guy's just telling me, he's like, well, the reason we don't have water is because of climate change. And people were telling him like, well, there's agricultural practices that are a problem. You're draining a lot of the water. And he's like, no, but the snows aren't regenerating, or the mountains aren't regenerating the snowfall, so it's not melting to replenish our water because of climate change, which is all true. But I'm like, but why did climate change start? And what are other reasons? There's too many people in California. There's not too many people in California. Like, I'm like, no, there really are. Like, too many. He's like, only Southern California is overly populated. It's not Northern California. I'm like, yeah, but Northern California is where you have all the agriculture. Way too much. And then we ship all this stuff out of there to different states. I'm like, why can I even get avocados in Alaska? That doesn't even make sense. If we're going to be fucking realistic about this shit, and talk about like real climate change. Man, so I guess I was going to explain the whole conversation. But what it got me thinking was, how many people moving out of California would it take to completely flip our government and fix all the problems because we would just get a majority? Because we could get like 10 Senate seats, by having so many people move to like Wyoming, to Oklahoma, to Alaska, to, you know what I'm saying? Like to even Florida, North Carolina, some of the more desirable states. You could do it in Arizona. So like, if you went just like to the strictly, I have a couple of numbers here, and I did it not off the Senate races, but off of the presidential race, just to see how many votes Trump won by, just to be simple on myself. I didn't want to waste like a whole bunch of time on it. So, like North Carolina, for instance, beautiful state. A lot of people want to live there anyways. Only 74,000 people. From like a strong blue city. People from New York could do this too, or Chicago, or anywhere that, is a really big hub that probably could use like the population growth coming down. Phoenix would be a great, although they're red, but I'm sure there's liberals there. They could just give up, whatever. It's not the point. 74,000 people, right? Alaska, only 36,000 people would need to move here. Maine, 70,000 people, and I actually did that one off their Senate race. Montana, beautiful state, 100,000 people. So, like, we could get, like, 10 Senate seats if, like, 400,000 people from, like, major blue hub cities that are, like, overpopulated just, like, were, like, had the, let's say, like, enlist in the movement to take over red states.
Yeah, man. I'm moving to Montana. Oh, thank you for your service.
Yeah, exactly. 1 million brave souls I actually wrote down. I was thinking even bigger. So we just say 1 million people move out of these places, But then I did realize, like, because I was starting to think, well, you could be 300,000 people out of LA, 300,000 out of, Chicago, and 300,000, roughly 30%, out of each of the three big cities. But that is like a mass migration. So it's like, maybe it should be like in a lower range, like that's a lot of people to be moving. But if we could just get We can get 36,000 liberals to Alaska and 100,000, or yeah, 100,000 to Montana, right? I mean, and boom,
Maybe. I mean,
boom.
yeah, people are definitely LA proud, and you talking about like the conversation having to do with lack of resources and all that. I mean, it's also very conveniently glossed over that, I mean, since LA was founded, they've been basically pumping water into the desert for them to be able to live there.
Exactly. That was a whole
And
part of the conversation. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like California, I think grows the world's like most almonds, and literally one almond takes a gallon of water to grow. So it's just like, yeah.
Yep, and grapes and avocados are notorious for using a ton of water. Like all the shit they do there. Yeah, and they're just stealing it from everywhere.
Yeah, you want to be more sustainable, go somewhere where it's sustainable to live, like, not even to live a certain way, just to live.
Right.
I mean, it's
Well, this person that I was discussing it with was making like good points, but I kept trying to bring them like deeper into the issues. So he's like, "Well, these wildfires are so bad because we're not getting the runoff from the mountains," which I'm not saying that isn't true. But what I was trying to say is the reason that the wildfire seems so bad, because this one that's going on right now was actually caused by a lightning strike. So that's like a natural forest fire. When these things happen, and like droughts are natural to some degree, if you don't have people that have overpopulated a state so that they've gone so far into the forest where these fires used to happen and not be noticed, but now they're burning up cities or towns that shouldn't even probably be there in the first place, right? And we have power lines that end up getting too hot and starting fires. Or there was a fire a couple years ago where there was like a farmer that he was driving a spike into the ground, or like putting a fence in or something, and it caused a spark. Started one of those, I think that started like that Paradise fire where that whole town got decimated, So
okay,
what I was trying to say is, like, before you guys started stealing or taking more water than is sustainable from like your water source, the Colorado River, as well as Las Vegas and Phoenix doing the same thing, there would have been enough water coming from there if you had like a regulated population to serve people, so that when you had droughts happen where you didn't get as much runoff from the mountains, you wouldn't even notice that you didn't have that water, because your main water source would actually be filled up. And then when those wildfires happened, you wouldn't even notice them because they would just be natural wildfires, hence the name wildfire, struck by a lightning strike, rather than having a town built out in like a dry area or in the middle of a forest. And like all forests burn at some point. It's natural, and then they regrow. It's supposed to happen. We're just not supposed to live everywhere, and if you want to have nice weather all the time, well, I guess one thing that happens is you don't get water. So I just want to encourage people to move out of California and go to more sustainable places to live, and also flip our entire nation's democracy, because we have the power to do that. We don't need to fight online. We don't need to say stupid shit. All we need are all these people who got their jobs to be work from home now. All these big city jobs just went to work from home. Buy a place in a red state. Be a brave soul. You don't even have to spread your politics. Just quietly move in. Buy a nice house and just start taking over neighborhoods. And next thing you know, we'll have like 65, Democratic senators in the Senate in like 10 years, and everything's good to go. We don't even need to do all this bullshit.
Gentrify the Deep South.
And I mean, this is why we have to be quiet, because if they find out about this, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's going to be a liberal invasion, and they're going to start arming themselves and build walls and shit. I'm just saying, don't even be super political. Just, move into neighborhoods, be a nice person, live a good life. If you, talk to somebody, like, if it comes up, it comes up. Then they go, hey, that person's actually a liberal, and I didn't even know it. We've been living next door for maybe it's not so bad. And slowly but surely. And here's the other, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling so much. Feel free to cut this whole segment up as much as you want, because all this rambling I'm doing. But I was envisioning how, like, for so many years, it's always been like people are like, fuck my small town home. And especially, more liberal minded people, I need to go to the city where people think like me. So I started picturing in my mind just like little springs out of like the whole Midwest and Central, like the flyover country. So not just the Midwest, all the way to the West, all the red states. And I was just
Sure.
picturing all the little spots of blue that used to be there, over the past like 50 years, and it just springing pew 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 out to like the cities, and the cities just getting more and more blue, and then all it leaves behind is the red. It's like, why? Of course, this is why this happened. Like, of course, this is why we are where we are. Everybody was like, "Fuck where I'm from," and I kind of did the same. But I like, I didn't go to no big city though. I went to the place. I went from a purple state to a red state, so I kind of did what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, man. I mean, California wants to steal, Great Lakes water and have it shipped out there, and they're
Those motherfuckers.
All the while they've been stealing all our Democrats before then.
Yeah, they left it though. Like, well, we want the weather and we want the water. You guys, keep shoveling the snow and fuck off up there. We don't give a shit about you. Oh, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. So that's that. Did that start with what I've been up to this week? So that's what I've been up to this week.
What I was going to say is, speaking of nature, I got a little story that came up the other day. Acid shooting land lobsters are brought out by summer rains in Texas, and I had to look into that one. So as it happens quite often on stories we cover on this show, the headline is a little bit misleading, but so apparently this is happening around Big Bend National Park, which is in western Texas, I think. But summer rains are driving out these, they're called vinegroons, actually. And they're only about 3 inches long, and the acid that they shoot out, they're like a little tiny scorpion, basically. The acid they shoot out is acetic acid, which is, for the layman, vinegar. So it went from sounding like, some horrible alien invasion.
Can you actually use this shit? Is it some delicacy that you can like?
I was gonna say this went from being scary to like appetizing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got little like land crawdads full of vinegar. You've heard of biolumination. This is biomarination.
Oh wow, that's wild! Yeah, I just pulled it up here so I could get a look. And right as you were saying, because I was about to, I was thinking, they don't look very big, but that was right as you were saying that they weren't. So, wow, yeah, they sound, fuck them for making that headline. Acid shooting land lobsters when they could have been, delicious little creatures come out of the ground, the world provides us with another, man.
Yeah, pre-seasoned crawdads.
Yeah. Yeah, you could just throw them in a pot with a bunch of vegetables. You don't even got to add any vinegar.
Oh, yeah. Maybe just a little Tony C's, but that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't say no seasonings, just no vinegar, Because like I said, I'm all about that acid these days, So, yeah. Use a lot of vinegar, a lot of lemon and lime juices. I'm all about that shit.
But yeah, that was my own little interesting thing that popped up.
The story really here is that it is a great story. It's a wonderful story, and they needed to fucking sensationalize it to get their goddamn clicks. Summer rains bring acid shooting land. Fuck them. Fuck that. I don't like that. Fuck you, Yahoo.
I mean, I've gone down that rabbit hole before of just talking about how much bullshit that is. I understand less and less people read the news anymore, but don't be pulling that shit. Eventually you're going to just ruin, not even eventually, you're already skewing the way people see the world because people see a headline and then be like, oh, they just run with it. That's how things are. Even though you get a paragraph in, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, these QAnon people pick up with it and did you hear Joe Biden's releasing acid shooting land lobsters to take over Texas? Like he's trying to kill all the Republicans, so they can consider kind of close to electing or to flipping blue